गुड आफ्टरनून डियर स्टूडेंट मु सोनाली स्वागत करुच्ची मो चैनल बायोलॉजी सोनाली रे। तो आज आम सैचुरेटेड एंड अनसैचुरेटेड फैटी एसिड विषय जानिबा। तो क्लास स्टार्ट करबा पूर्व समस्त अनुरोध अच्छी मो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर एवं वीडियो पसंद आसला निश्चय लाइक करिवो। देखो फैटी एसिड कौन फैटी एसिड डेफिनेशन फैटी एसिड आर comprised of hydrocarbon chains terminating with carboxylic acid group. Fatty acid and their associated derivatives are the primary component of lipids. The length and degree of saturation of the hydrocarbon chain is highly variable between each fatty acid and dictates the associated physical properties. Moreover, fatty acids are responsible for the hydrophobic properties exhibited by lipid. The hydrophobic properties माने कौन? The insoluble in water is called hydrophobic properties. The types of fatty acid, there are two types of fatty acid. गोटे होची unsaturated fatty acid आ गोटे होची saturated fatty acid. तो प्रथमे देखिबा unsaturated fatty acid कोन जो कि polyunsaturated fat कहा जाए किंबा monounsaturated. तो monounsaturated fatty acid contain one carbon double bond, so that it is called monounsaturated fatty acid. जेहेतु गोटे कार्बन डबल बॉन्ड केवल गोटे थाए तेणु से monounsaturated fatty acid बोली कहा जाए, which can be found at different position throughout the fatty acid chain. The majority of monounsaturated fatty acid are between 16 and 22 carbon in length and contain a cis bond double bond, meaning that the hydrogen atom are oriented in the same direction, introducing a bend in the molecules. Moreover, the cis configuration is associated with thermodynamic instability and thus a lower melting point compared to trans and saturated fatty acid. Polyunsaturated fatty acid contain more than one double bond. When the first double bond is situated between the third and fourth or sixth and seventh carbon atom from the carbon-oxygen bond, they are referred to as omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid respectively. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are produced only by plant and phytoplanktons and are essential to all higher organisms. तो देखिए saturated fatty acid. Saturated fatty acid are saturated with hydrogen and most are straight hydrocarbon chain with an even number of carbon atom. The most common fatty acid contain 22 carbon atoms. Then function of fatty acids. Fatty acids have important roles in first signal transduction pathway, second cellular fuel source, third the composition of hormone and lipids, fourth the modification of protein, तापर देखिए फिफ्थ एनर्जी स्टोरेज विद इन एडिपोज टिश्यू स्पेशलाइज्ड फैट सेल इन फॉर्म ऑफ ट्राइसाइग्लिसरॉल. तो फर्स्ट देखिए बायोलॉजिकल सिग्नलिंग कौन फैटी एसिड आर इन्वॉल्व इन ए वाइड रेंज ऑफ बायोलॉजिकल सिग्नलिंग पाथवे फॉलोइंग द डाइटरी इंटेक ऑफ polyunsaturated lipids. The product of lipid peroxidation can function as the precursor of powerful signaling mediator. Some example of such signaling includes eicosanoid production, the peroxidation of LDL, and the modulation of metabolic and neurological pathways. The metabolism of fatty acid as a fuel source. The metabolism of fatty acid involves the uptake of free fatty acid by cells via fatty acid binding protein, which transport the fatty acid intracellularly from the plasma membrane. The free fatty acids are then activated by acyl-CoA coenzyme A and transported to first the mitochondria or peroxisome to be converted into ATP and heat as a form of energy. Second, facilitate gene expression via binding to transcription factor. Third, the endoplasmic reticulum for esterification into various classes of lipid that can be used as energy storage. When used as energy source, fatty acids are released from triacylglycerol and processes into two carbon molecules identical to those formed during the breakdown of glucose. Moreover, the two carbon molecules generated from the breakdown of both fatty acid and glucose are used to generate energy via the same pathways. Glucose can also be converted into fatty acid under condition of excess glucose or energy within a cell. Energy storage. Fatty acids are also used as a form of energy storage as fat droplet composed of hydrophobic triacylglycerol within specialized fat cells called adipocytes. When stored in this form, fatty acids are important sources and thermal and electrical insulation as well as protection against mechanical compression. Fatty acids are the preferred form of energy storage over glucose because they produce approximately 6 times of amount of usable energy. Storage in the form of triacylglycerol molecule consists of 3 fatty acid chains attached to a glycerol molecules. The cell membrane function. One of the most critical functions of fatty acid is the formation of cell membrane within envelope all cell and the associated intracellular organelles. In particular, cell membrane are composed of a phospholipid bilayer made up of 2 fatty acid chains bound to glycerol and a hydrophilic phosphate group joined to a smaller hydrophilic compound. Thus, each a phospholipid molecule has a hydrophobic tail composed of 2 fatty acid chains and a hydrophilic head comprised of a phosphate group. Cellular membrane are formed when 2 phospholipid monolayer associate with the tails joining in an aqueous condition to create a phospholipid bilayer. Protein modification. Fatty acids play several critical roles via their interaction with various proteins. The acylation of the protein is an important function of polyunsaturated fatty acid as it is critical for the anchoring, folding and function of multiple protein. In addition, fatty acid can also interact with various nucleus receptor protein and promote gene expression as several fatty acid protein complex function as transcription factor. In this manner, fatty acids have been found to regulate the transcription of the gene related to metabolism, cellular proliferation and adipose. So this is all about the saturated and unsaturated fatty acid and its biological importance. So this is all about. तो आज ପାଇଁ तो एतिके. Thank you.